So a request was made to look at smartwork and some of the details with drawing it, so I figured we'd take a look. This should be what you see. You'll see your grades on the right hand side. I'm attempting to point to that, so that's our grades cursor. And then we've got our using smartwork, which is our learning to use the software. Yes, that is going to be frustrating because it's going to expose you to pretty much every type of question that you could see this semester. Some of those are more frustrating than others. Play with it now. As long as you submit work for those, you will get credit. After that, we then have Unit 1, and all of those homeworks should be visible. It's kind of hard for me to tell, but they should show up a little bit darker than the other ones. Oh, because they're all available. Okay, sorry. So we would just click on those and they would go. So let's take a look at using smartwork. So we just click that. Apparently it gives you some directions. Okay, let's continue. I should go through and load it up. And we've now got our homework system. Okay, there is a scroll thing on the right. It does not match with scrolling wheels, so you will have to click and drag that every so often. It's a good idea before you click check answer, which is how you would submit your answer, to always do that little scroll to make sure you aren't missing some part of the question. So in this question, we just want to select the oxygen atoms. Okay, so what that means is I would look at that drawing and I would just go through and literally click on the oxygen atoms. So I think O is the symbol for oxygen. Oh, I think this looks like an oxygen, so I'm going to click that. I'm going to click that. Oh, I think that's all the answers, so I'm going to click check answer. Oh, I did something wrong. Notice there's a red check mark or a red X wherever I did something wrong. So the question I answered I did wrong because, oh shoot, that's not an oxygen. That is a carbon that I selected. So I'm going to go through and click try again. And I'm going to click that carbon again, and it should unhighlight it. Notice that the oxygens now are green. This time, if I looked at my incorrect work, which I can click my incorrect work up at the top through a sequence of tabs, which should reach no more than 3, I'll notice that I saw another red X. That means that, whoops, I missed one of the questions. Okay. I can see information about explanations behind it. When it comes to the learning to use smartwork, you'll see explanations. When it comes to the homework, there'll be hints. There are explanations now because it's not a big deal if you get it right or wrong. It's that you went through and did it. Okay? So let's go through and do the try again. Okay? It saved my progress and undid the selection of the carbon. And then it says select the triple bond in the molecule below. So I will move my cursor over the triple bond, click, and I've got that selected, and I'll click check answer. And sure enough, I'm okay. Shucks. So to move to the next question, move to the bottom of that screen. Whoops, if I can get to it. Move to the bottom of the screen and then just click whichever question you want to go to. I want to skip to question 3. So this will happen if we don't answer the questions in sequence. It'll just pop up and say, if you advance, it's going to delete all your work. Okay, that's fine. Presumably, assuming because you didn't enter any work. Okay? If you've entered work, then you should probably either decide that that work was good and you're keeping it, in which case click check answer instead of continuing forward, or just decide it's not a big deal and just continue forward, which I missed the button, but there we go. So here's the window that you will more often than not see for your homeworks is actually drawing stuff out. So again, you can scroll down, they've got some hints within it. All they want us to do for this is to draw this image. So if we click within the box, a little toolbar opens up down low, giving me access to the tools to be able to go through and draw. Okay? So I see all these lines, so I'm going to take that line and I'm going to start to draw my structure out. Okay? Because it looks like it kind of doubles back on itself. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to say, well, there's another line there, there's another line over here, and another line over here. And for the most part, that looks kind of like what's going on. For those of you knowing that that's wrong, we'll talk about that in a second. So we can double-click on that icon to make it a nitrogen, and now I've got that ring mostly drawn. I'll notice that there is another line coming out. So I want to make sure I correspond that to the correct section. So I'm going to do it over here, draw that line out, and go, wow, it's kind of tedious to have to go through and do this. I wonder if there was a shortcut. So I'm going to go down to my toolbar down here, and I'm going to click and see what each of these things do. So if I click and hold the cursor, nothing happens. I have no idea what the check mark does, but it didn't do anything. The line was my bond. Click and hold doesn't do anything. Nothing. So this looks kind of like when I click and hold along anything on that top menu, I either don't get access to the tools, or that's all I get. The advanced tools, when I click and hold, ooh, something pops up. Let me scroll down and actually take a look at that. So when I click there, oh, I now see double, triple, wedges, and dashes. So I can now change the types of bonds that I use. Okay, if I click and hold the C, it gives me access to a whole bunch more elements. Not all of the elements, because I don't need them all. COH will do something similar if it actually opened up, but because I can't use it in this, I won't have access to it. The dots I can use in a varying either pairs or single. Arrows, varying reaction arrows. There's a curved arrow, which we haven't seen yet. There's clear, which I'm pretty sure that means delete this, and I don't want to do that yet. Then I get this weird ring structure. Oh, a whole bunch of different ring structures, including a 5-membered ring, which is useful for the next one. Interestingly enough, it also had that 6-membered ring. So if I'd done that, I would have just been able to use that. Well, that's kind of a bummer. I drew that all out by hand. So if I want to erase, this gets annoying because I have to go through and select the erase tool and click each thing that I want erased. Okay, it's not just an easy cursor over. Okay, but I wanted my 5-membered ring, so I'm going to click and put it. Oh, interesting. Well, let me put it like that. Shoot, I have to drop that out separate. Okay, well, I wanted those two things connected to each other, so I want to make sure that that line connects, so I'm going to erase that. Oh, wait a second. I erased the line and it now dropped these two C's, which stand for carbon. Why did it do that? Okay, well, the reason it did that is that line was hanging out in free space. It wasn't connected to any part of my structure. As a good way to check and figure this out, I could get my cursor tool back. Okay, that's the black one. And now if I select the bond and click and move it, notice the only thing that moves is that line. If this bond was connected to any other atoms, the whole section would move. For instance, if I now select in my ring, a whole lot moves. Interesting enough, those double bonds that I drew in there aren't moving with the structure. I wonder why that is. Okay. Well, if we go back and delete those, notice the carbons show up again. So what ended up happening is I drew double bonds in, just like the drawing, but the computer doesn't acknowledge those as double bonds because I haven't told it I want 2 bonds in that space. To do so, we have a couple options. One is the advanced bond tool. The other one is using our normal bond tool and then just clicking on top of our normal line. Okay? We should see the line highlight blue, click, now I've got a double bond, click, now I have a double bond. If I want these 2 ring structures connected to each other, I keep thinking you can see my cursor and you can't. If I want these 2 ring structures connected to each other, I'll go to my bond tool and I will draw a line to connect them to each other. Notice that when I do that, it shows the atom that it's actually being connected. That helps ensure that I'm actually doing this correctly. The next part is this ring has this nitrogen in it. Okay, well, the nitrogen is located kind of at the bottom towards the right, so I'll just draw that in, and then there's another line over here. Wait, it drew in a bunch of nitrogens. Why did it do that? Oh, because you know what? When I did the line, I didn't have the atom highlighted when I did my connection. Okay. Why is it drawing in the nitrogen? The nitrogen atom was the last one I had used, so if I double click on that, I can enter in my carbon. If I hit return, it should fix that. Okay. Now, since I'm awesome, I'm going to go ahead and check answer because I'm right. Oh shoot, I'm wrong. What did I miss? Okay, well, I fixed all those connections. It's now going back and saying, well, how did I miss this? For those of you that can see this quicker or more easily, I drew this line in the wrong spot. It actually belongs down here. Okay? Now it'll go through and say I'm correct. I'm picking my select tool again because, again, this is something that I think students are missing, is not connecting the atoms. if I want to test and make sure my structure is correct, I can move my cursor over one of my atoms. So in this case, I'm putting it over a carbon and click and drag. Anything that's connected to that carbon should move with it. If a line that I think is connected does not move with it, it is not connected. Okay? And now that I've got that done, I can click wherever I want, and I should have my correct answer, check answer, and we should be good to go. Okay? So make sure you get the proper connectivities in, put it all together. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, but the connectivities all have to match up. That was a lot longer than I wanted this video to be, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If you have more questions, feel free to ask.